I'm going to show you guys how to use violent body language as a way to resolve confrontation without violence. It sounds a little bit abstract, but when you're dealing with these real toxic masculinity guys who just jump straight to emotional volatility and physical threat of violence over like the smallest things, this is really important to know if you want to engage with them, because if they're going to take it to that level, you need to be able to go to that level too. And with both of you being at that level, that actually creates the best chance to resolve something without further escalation, with non-violence, right? My credentials here, I've spent my whole life on job sites dealing with blue-collar idiots who snap over everything and throw a fucking tantrum, all right? So I know my way around these types, and if that's not a big part of your life, I think you should know this stuff. A couple of caveats. Most guys have never been in a street fight, all right? Everybody talks a big game about seeing red or whatever. You don't want to see me on one. The reality of this country is that if you punch somebody, you're probably going to go to prison. And so most dudes who are walking around without felonies have never done that, no matter what they might say or what they want you to think. Second, people that are trained fighters most likely aren't going to start one. I'll say that again. People that are trained to fight aren't going to start one. What does that mean? Folks who spend a lot of time at the fight gym learning how to punch motherfuckers and get their grappling on, they can kill somebody with their bare hands. That's kind of a corny trope, but it's the truth. And because they've seen the reality of violence and because they know what they're capable of, they're not going to go out getting all rah-rah, getting in people's faces, threatening to beat people up, because they know in their heart that they can and that they're not going to. Some of the deadliest guys I know, straight killers that could put your head up your own ass before you knew what was happening, are so low-key, soft-spoken, they look like a nerd. You would never know it, because when you know how to do that stuff, it affects how you carry yourself in certain ways. So with all that in mind, let's run through the scenario. You just told somebody not to say the N-word in public, and they immediately throw a tantrum and try to get in your face. I'm going to show you what that's probably going to look like. These guys only know how to communicate using the threat of violence, so they're going to escalate that as quickly as possible. As soon as you put their feet to the fire, you just punked them in front of everybody, in their mind, because they can't conceive the world beyond that. So they're going to get up, and they're going to get loud, and they're going to start with the verbal threats. What the fuck did you just say to me? Yeah, I fucking said what I said, pussy. Come up and do something about it, right? And they're going to raise their voice, and they're going to try to intimidate you. And how you respond to that really determines what happens next. All these conversations are had with body language, the nonverbal stuff. Your body language needs to convey a level of comfort at the threat of violence, right? You need to be calm. If you're both sitting down and you're all man-spreading, hitting one of these, stay that way, okay? Don't get up. Don't let your heart start racing, let your voice start shaking. You can't give these guys any indication that you're rattled, because that's going to empower them to keep escalating. So when they're all like, what the fuck did you say to me, you little bitch? I said what I said, dude. If this interaction happens while you guys are both standing, I recommend hitting one of these, right? The thinker, or crossing your arms, because you want to have your hands up by your face, right? Because that's what they're going to do if they decide to throw a punch. We both know they probably won't, but on the off chance, you want to be able to hit this one real quick. But this is so powerful, dude. Just them threatening to escalate something to violence and you showing that you're fine if it goes there with your body language and your tone of voice, that alone really takes that threat of violence off the table. Because guys that are looking to escalate, they want to victimize somebody, right? They're not looking for a hard target. They may be capable of violence in their life, but it's going to be against women, gay and trans folks. They're going to be looking for that shit when they're in a group. They're going to use it on their children. When you as another grown man show up and let them know, hey, I'm ready to go there, big dog. I mean, you'd be surprised how quick that shit peters out. So this next part is important, okay? On the off chance that you get some dude who has hands or thinks he's got hands and he's not going to put up with this and he doesn't care if he goes to jail, you need to know these next steps. So if you're both sitting down, right, and he stands up, you stand up. Don't sit there fucking, cool and collected and let him get up and get close to you, all right? You stand up, because now he knows, okay, this guy's ready to go. And if you're standing and this starts to look like it's going to turn into something real. If he starts to get close to you, right, because they're going to try to walk you down, get in your face, right? You step back, you keep your tone of voice calm, right? Hey man, that's not what I'm looking for, but I said what I said. You step back and you just hit one of these. This is so important. Number one, from a fight training perspective, this distance right here, do not let anybody in that distance, right? I can't let you get close. That's real shit. And once you establish this distance, if somebody encroaches on it, that's where your right to defend yourself begins, legally. And also, when you step back and hit this, if they know shit about fighting, if they've watched a boxing match in their life, they know that you're establishing your range, all right? They know that if they come in beyond these fingertips, you got this right here for them. And then this last part, let's assume that this doesn't work. You put this up and they just get fired up and they're gonna try to make an example out of you because there's girls watching. I'm not gonna speak too much on this because really you could learn a lot more from me going to some fight classes. But the basics here, knowing what we've already talked about how guys that are in the streets looking for violence probably aren't trained to do so, they're gonna hit you with one of these. All right, you're gonna see this John coming from the other coastline. So when you see this thing coming in, all right, hands are up here, you step in and you catch that thing, right? Tuck your shoulders around your chin, step in, all right? Don't be backing up when it's cracking. You step in, take control of your space, block that thing, all right? If they want to rush you, right? They seen some wrestling or they're just a big guy, they want to hit you with one of these, get your wrestling up, all right? Get good at a duck under and just take that dude's back. Once you get behind somebody, it's over. Last thing I'll say about like being in a street fight situation, those folks who see red, I can't describe what an adrenaline dump does to your body if you haven't experienced it. If you just let it all out and you hold your breath for your shots because you want to fucking put the world behind it, in about 30 seconds, that guy's going to be laying on the ground, probably throwing up because it is so taxing on your nervous system, right? But that goes both ways. If you don't know your shit and you can't stay calm emotionally and manage your breathing, because that's honestly 90% of it, and you end up on the ground and you can't defend yourself because you're about to pass out and he's not tired, you're in a bad situation, okay? So get your cardio up, go to some combat sports training and learn what it feels like to have that cardio demand and that emotional rush when somebody's about to kick your ass, okay? Because even though you're in a controlled environment, it's going to do some crazy things to your mind and body, and that's when you're going to learn how to manage that shit, okay? So that when you're out and about, you're just completely cool because you trust your hands and you trust your mind and you trust your body. How do you stay calm during a confrontation? When things are escalating and you start to have that emotional response, how do you manage that and push it back down so that you can keep your wits completely about you? Physiologically, your body's response to impending conflict, or what it senses as that, is going to be a hormone dump, first and foremost, adrenaline, cortisol, so on, that's going to kind of get you fired up. And also your heart rate is going to speed up. I recommend that you practice breathing techniques to slow your heart rate down in your off time, because it's going to sort of dial in that mind-body connection. And that way, if you end up in a situation where things are escalating, you can sort of just tap right into it. I like a breathing system that's called 4-7-8. It's a 4-second big inhale, right? Hold it for 7 seconds, or just a 7 count, right? And then let it out for 8 and give it a big like, right? Like you're blowing out birthday candles. And if you're laying in bed doing this, as you kind of start to get good at it, you'll feel your heart rate as soon as you start that 7 count and hold your breath, you'll notice your heart rate drop considerably. Like you'll be able to tell. Do a mindfulness exercise, right? People that have had panic attacks will be able to tell you about the 1-2-3 method, right? Like 1 thing you can see, 2 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear. Just really apprise yourself of your surroundings in that moment. Take stock of what's around you, what you hear, your own body and what it's doing, and that's going to ground you, because that adrenaline response is going to get you all worked up. Your mind's going to be running crazy. You want to stay in the moment and keep your awareness on your material surroundings. And then intellectually, right, the engine behind what you're scared of, just understand what those fears are, because that's what anxiety and confrontation and stuff bring up is fear. I'm scared that this guy's going to whoop my ass. I'm scared that I'm going to get seriously hurt, right? I'm scared that if I defend myself, this guy's going to call the cops, which he probably will, and I'll be legally liable for what I do to him. Really, the best work that you can do is already have those answers, right? Ideally, you've already been going to combat sports training, and so you've got nice hands and you've practiced dealing with emotional situations and how to deal with somebody who wants some. You should be apprised of the self-defense laws wherever you live, right? Know how far you can take things before you could get in legal trouble. I used to be deathly scared of confrontation. I grew up in a home where I never felt safe, and the way that I dealt with that was to make myself small and nimble and to just get out of a situation. That was how I learned to survive. And as I got further into my life, I realized that one, sometimes that's not an option, and two, that can empower people to feel like they can victimize me because I won't fight back. And so I wasn't born with these skills by any means. I had to learn them, sometimes the hardest way. But I do have a handle on myself now during confrontation. When things are escalating, people get loud, people get emotional. I stay pretty fucking chill because I've done a lot of this hard work behind the scenes, and all of that will kick in when you need it. So trust the process, run yourself through these situations, go get some fight training and get your hands up. And if it ever cracks, you'll be more calm and composed than you even know. And having that composure, that calm confidence, will make a lot of people rethink whatever they're threatening to do to you.